We are drafting the draft on Bootleg today. EJ and I going back and forth with a two-man snake draft. 3 teams each of our favorite draft classes. We figured that's probably the easiest way to talk about who we think did the best over draft weekend. If you've come here for Shadur Sanders talk, I'm sorry. We're all tapped out. We're going to talk about literally anything else today, or really any of the quarterbacks. We have a lot more to go over. So again, our 6 favorite classes drafted today, me and AJ. Roll the intro. Welcome back to the Bootleg Football Podcast. I'm Brett. That's EJ. Still recovering from 20 hours of wall-to-wall live draft coverage. We talked about every single pick. We didn't take any breaks. At least I didn't take any breaks. EJ, I think, had like one bathroom break in there somewhere. Damn near 8 straight hours on Saturday. I think we did like between 5 and 6 hours on Friday, 5+ hours Thursday, almost 3 hours Wednesday. So it was a lot. It was a lot. I encourage you guys to go and check out the replays of those streams to get, the nitty-gritty thoughts on every single pick as they came in. Today we're doing more of a macro look at the classes. EJ, have you slept yet?
Yes, I did sleep, man. That nap on Saturday after everything finally drops off hits like a brick. Feels like somebody came up and just conked you in the back of the head with a brick, but boy, it's good sleep. I know people love their master's naps, but the post-draft nap is something to behold. And just a huge shout-out. Thank you to the 250,000+ of you who watched the coverage within the first 3 days. It's a staggering number to both of us, and we can't thank you enough. We wouldn't be here doing this without you all. It is for you and because of you, and that's the way it works. We're glad you like it because we like doing it. So we're going to give you even a little bit more today, but I've got an interesting way that we get to select who goes first because in such a small draft, that's a big deal. So, Mr. Coleman, I need you to select a number anywhere between 5 and 10.
9.
Okay, 9. And then pick a position, either running back or wide receiver.
Running back.
Okay, so we are looking at our 9th graded running back, and whichever one got picked first is the winner and gets to go first.
Who did I have as my 9th running back? Was it like Brashad
I don't know,
Smith,
but I'm going to find out. Let's see.
In the 7th round?
6,
I think I'm screwed.
7, 8, 9. You got Cam Scattaboo.
Okay.
And I got
that worked in my favor.
Damian Martinez. So I think you win because Martinez went late to the Seahawks. Let's double check.
No, yeah, Damian definitely went later because in the chat during the draft stream, everybody's like, what's going on with Damian Martinez over and over and over again. He had some, again, there's a difference between character and maturity. There is some maturity stuff that dropped him. He's a better player than where he went, by the way. So I think I lucked out there having Cam Scattaboo be RB9 for me. Ended up going as like RB5 or 6, I think, in this draft. I'll have to go back and double check. I don't know. It's going to sound like I don't like Cam Scattaboo. I really do like Cam Scattaboo, by the way.
We both do. This is a very good and very deep running back class. But quick shout out to all our patrons. They've seen all these draft rankings. If you wonder what the reasoning behind that particular call is, take a look, sign up. You can see these draft rankings for every position. And we've got plenty of data charts and everything else. So, go look at the people that your team drafted, figure out why they were good, and whether or not we're going to be right or wrong about that. According to you, we'll take it.
So I have first pick here then?
You have first pick as based on the strengths of Cam Scattaboo.
That's lucky for me then, because I'm pretty sure both of us had the exact same team, like number 1 on our chart that we're racing to get, and that's the New England Patriots.
It's not for me.
Really?
I love their draft. No, it's not.
Oh, they were number 1 for me with a bullet.
They're tremendous in this draft. They are among, and again, we should say that we're only going to talk about 6 of these classes, but there are 7 or 8 that I laid out just by memory without going through before I looked at every single class. There were 7 that I put on a sheet before I did that as possible candidates. So there are a lot of teams that drafted really well this year.
I put 6 on the sheet, and literally 4 of them are the entire AFC West. So we'll probably talk a lot of AFC West today. But Patriots at the very top, like the very, very top in their own tier for me. This was, in my opinion, the best draft weekend that anybody had around the league was in New England. Will Campbell, pick 4 overall. I know a lot of people had reservations about, is he a guard? Is he a tackle? I think he's a tackle until he's not. I think he's a really, really gifted athlete. Lack of length can be an issue for tackles sometimes, but if you have really great grip strength and core strength and pliability, you can make up for lack of length. And I think that we saw that play out in the SEC. He's going up against a bunch of monsters every single week, and he shut him down. Like, he had a great day against Shamar Stewart, who's one of the freakiest edge prospects ever, and even by NFL standards is a top-tier athlete. Will Campbell had a pretty nice day against him. So he's a tackle till he's not, and if worst-case scenario, he's like a Pro Bowl caliber guard, you could do a lot worse than that with your first pick. Travion Henderson at pick 6 of the second round, absolute dog in pass protection, super explosive, catches the ball well, incredible football character, incredible character, period. Like, I think he's going to be a fan favorite, like, from the first day he's there. I love Travion Henderson. Kyle Williams, mutual favorite of both me and EJ. I had him as a top 10 receiver in this class. They get him in the 3rd round. As far as what role he's going to play, the answer is yes. Just like literally everything. Slot, Z, X, jet sweep guy, special teams. Like, he's going to do everything. Jared Wilson somehow went pick 95. Didn't see that coming. I thought out of the 3 Georgia linemen, he was the best one. And I thought he very easily could have gone, first half of round 2. Craig Woodson, one of my absolute favorite safeties in this draft. I think I had him as like safety 4 or 5 in this class. He's immediately a contributor as a do-it-all safety that almost never missed tackles. Joshua Farmer, nose tackle extraordinaire from Florida State. He's going to be a down eater for them on early downs. Braden Swinson, who was a top 50 talent in this draft as a pass rusher, one of the best pass rushers in this class. Again, maturity concerns pushed him way down the board into the 5th round. He should have been long gone by then. Andres Borregales, he's a kicker. I didn't watch him, but he's a kicker. I don't know. We'll see. Marcus Bryant, tackle out of Mizzou. I didn't see him. I watched Membu, but not him. But I know he's a rather large human. Julian Ashby, quite possibly the most athletic long snapper to have ever graced a football field. And then Kobe Minor, DB out of Memphis, Mr. Relevant. I didn't get to watch him either. But, I mean, if we're just taking the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 picks,
right?
Yes, I love every single one of them. Like, it's an incredible draft. Not just getting contributors, not just getting starters, getting potential stars here. Like, this screams like 2017 Saints to me. If you look at that Saints class, like, it's amazing. They did incredible work.
Yeah, they had to get back on track, and they used this draft to do it. There was no guarantee that they would hit this out of the park. It seems, again, these are initial reactions, they did the very best they could. With Will Campbell, the landing spot is everything for me because they're going to play him at left tackle. As long as you're going to play him at left tackle and give him every chance to succeed, I feel fine about Will Campbell because he's good at doing that. Everything else, conversion to center, yeah, he could probably do it. He's a good athlete. Guard, I have my questions. I don't need to deal with any of that because they're going to stick him at left tackle and say, protect Drake May's blind side. He can do that. Henderson is an amazing running back for them. They needed some juice in the running back room. They get pass protection as a huge bonus. Kyle Williams, we love. Woodson, Jared Wilson, Farmer. Swinson was a tremendous value because of the off-the-field stuff. I did reach out to somebody because, as you well know, I sung the praises of one Braden Swinson because we talk about the third all the time. And the testing and the tape, which are the 2/3 we can see, were great. He, again, was a top 50 player on tape. We didn't hear until the beginning of day 3 that there were rumblings about him not being great off the field. I reached out to a friend of mine that worked for a team, and I was like, yo, heads up would have been nice. Oh, yeah, he's a huge jerk.
Yeah. I believe the term was had 5 different position coaches, and none of them liked him. We're like, oh, cool. Would have loved to have known that in February, guys. Thanks.
Could you have said something about that before I made him a gem? That would have been neat. But again, as a talent on the football field, and again, we're talking about character, maturity, like it's maturity stuff. Can you get that cleaned up? I think Vrabel is a very strong head coach who is establishing a program that is going to be, you will get it cleaned up or you won't be here. And if he does, he's going to contribute for them on the field in a big way. So great draft from New England. Wasn't my top draft, but was in that first 6 or 7 teams that I wrote down without even looking back at the full results.
All right, who's your first round pick of this draft?
As I redraft the draft, I am going with Philadelphia because another extremely strong class goes top to bottom and is strong with every pick. And not only do I like all the picks, you can see the fit, right? There were multiple times, if you watch the live stream, that I just swore out loud, of course he's going to the Eagles. Of course how he's done it. I realize that's just an old trope at this point, but there's a reason for that. It's because he keeps doing it. So Philly starts off with Jahad Campbell to go play linebacker for Vic Fangio. Andrew Makuba, one of my all-time favorite players in this draft, one of the best free safeties in this draft, guy that plays like he weighs 220 even though he weighs about 185. Ty Robinson, the penetrating defensive tackle from Nebraska. Smail Mondon, absolute tight end eraser that's going to be great. I really think he's a Leonard Floyd clone, and I think that's what Vic saw, and that's why they picked him. Drew Kendall, center guard, versatility, NFL lineage, was great at Boston College. Kyle McCord, everybody knows I like Kyle McCord, and he fits into a program where if you have to play Kyle McCord for a month because Jalen Hurts twists his ankle, you're going to win a bunch of those games, especially with Philadelphia's roster. Miles Hinton is one of the ones way down the board that is a wildly underrated pick for them because of Jeff Stoutland. Miles Hinton, extremely tall human being, great feet for his size. He's not super strong in the upper body, but that's fine because he's got a year and a half or 2 years to fill out in an NFL program, learn under Jeff Stoutland, and then if somebody retires or you've got a tackle that's coming up for a contract, you're not over barrel because you have a replacement in-house that was very talented. Same thing for Cameron Williams. Issues to clean up from Texas? Yes. Can Stoutland do it? Almost certainly yes. And then they finish it off with Antoine Powell-Ryland, pass rusher out of Virginia Tech, one of the best pass rushers in the ACC. The rich getting richer, more strength for that defensive line. Every single pick down the line, you can say, yep, I see the fit. I see the value. I understand. This is chess, right? He's several steps ahead. He's talking about replacements for a year or two from now because it's not like they needed a whole lot. They're the Super Bowl champs. And how he still does with the draft. So I'm a huge fan of the Eagles Haul.
I'm really curious to see what kind of role Campbell's going to play for them, whether it's inside or outside. There were some people that were saying that the Eagles see Jahad as a pure edge. And for me, I think he's so good off ball, especially with like Kobe Dean, not likely to be ready for the season because of coming off injury. And I'm not sure Campbell would be a starting edge for them given who they already have. I just want to get him on the field. I feel like his best path to get on the field for as many snaps as possible is being off ball. So I'm really curious to see how Vic deploys him, whether it's off ball, on ball, maybe a little mix. Andrew Makuba, my only issue with it, I just need him to tackle better. And it's not even like he has an egregiously high missed tackle rate. I think he's like 12th highest among safeties in this class. So it's not like he missed the most tackles like Billy Bowman. And I love Billy Bowman. But the issue is he is so aggressive when coming downhill that sometimes he will put himself into disadvantageous angles to finish the tackle. And he's somebody who tends to over pursue out of aggression. I just need him to clean up the angles a little bit, and he'll be totally fine. Because I don't necessarily think it's bad tackling technique. He just needs to come correct a little bit more often. And then when you throw in all the coverage stuff, the instincts, competitiveness at the catch point, range, like he's ready to go out the box as far as coverage. I just need him to tackle more consistently. Ty Robinson, he's explosive as all hell. And I don't know how many downs he's going to get on that Philly D line, but I know that even if he's getting like 20, 25 snaps in a game, those 20, 25 snaps of fire and brimstone are going to be super fun because, boy, he can get off the ball. Also, fun fact, Kyle McCord, South Jersey kid growing up.
Yep.
Grew up as a Jets fan. You know why he wore number 6?
I do not.
Mark Sanchez.
Okay.
Was his favorite quarterback growing up. So Kyle McCord staying in South Jersey-ish kind of sort of area. Cool for him. Family doesn't have to go far. Also, I agree with you on Miles Hinton. He's going to be, I think, groomed to be Lane Johnson's heir apparent. So you heard it here first, folks. All right, you have to round us out around the turn here because it's a snake draft after all. So who's your next class?
Well, it sounds like I have to pick somebody from the NFC West because I can't get them all with one pick, but I'm going to go with Seattle. And this one starts off with Gray Zabel, which was a pick we didn't think they were going to take. We knew they needed to, but that's very rarely John Schneider's modus operandi. So he stays true, brings Gray Zabel into the building, fills a tremendous hole with a player that we think is going to be a long-term starter for the Seahawks. And that is a foundational piece. I know it's not sexy. It is awesome, and it was the right choice. Then they go and get Nick Emanwari. As soon as that pick happened on the live stream, I said, well, there's their Kyle Hamilton. It's a chess piece that Mike Mack's going to move all over their defense. 6'3", 220, runs like a deer, jumps out of the gym. A lot of people are saying he's bad at playing safety. I don't know if they watched his tape. He's not bad at playing safety. He has things to clean up, but he is not one of those height, weight, speed guys that they just took a risk on way too early. He is a good safety as is. Then they get Julian Arroyo, one of the best seam-ripping weapons at tight end in this entire draft. Question about him was whether his knee health would hold up. They obviously think it will. If he does, it's going to be a real benefit for whoever is playing quarterback there. And then Jalen Milroe, the biggest lottery ticket in this draft. Not ready to play quarterback right now, but doesn't need to. Can sit behind Sam for a couple of years and get ready. And if he does, if he gets it cleaned up, and that's his mechanics and his consistency, he's got every athletic gift that you want. He is going to be a reason you win games if that happens. And it's right about the time that all the guaranteed money is going to drop out of Sam Darnold's contract. So that's what they're betting on. Again, if he alone hits, this draft is money for them. But they keep going. Torrey Horton, the receiver out of Colorado State. Some could say quarterback as well because he played quarterback in high school. Cable Dude, the guard, is another fundamental sort of meat and potatoes piece that they needed. Damian Martinez, they end his slide. Maybe not early enough because I could have got the first pick in the snake draft, but great player. Bulldozer out of Miami who has a little bit of burst after he runs over people, which he does regularly. They rounded out with Ricky White, the receiver we like from UNLV, who had a disastrous draft prep process, but his film is really good, so they're betting on him to rebound. And then you add in UDFAs like Jared Ivey and Zy Alexander, which I just think of as extra draft picks. And this is a tremendous class, top to bottom. Again, a 10-win team that almost won the division last year just added all this talent in needed areas and possibly the biggest lottery pick in the draft. Great job by John Schneider.
The Zabel pick in particular was clutch because if you're looking at the Seahawks guard group in particular, and I know there's a whole bunch of problems with the Seahawks offense in general last year, mostly that I think stem from coaching, but if you're looking at just the Seahawks guard group, they were the second worst guard room in the entire NFL in terms of pressure percentage given up. They were only second to the Patriots, but they were worse than the Chargers. They were worse than the Vikings. They were worse than the Bengals. They were worse than the Giants. Like all these fan bases that complain about having terrible guard play, only one of them actually had worse guard play than Seattle. So Gray Zabel was absolutely the pick that they needed in the first round. I didn't think that John Schneider was going to do it. Like I mocked them Zabel because it was a what I would do mock. I had no faith that John Schneider was actually going to take a guard because he has repeatedly said publicly over and over and over again he doesn't value the guard position. Apparently, John Schneider is a fucking liar because he values the guard position enough to take Gray Zabel in the first round. It was the best possible pick. I love the Arroyo pick as well. A true seam ripper at tight end. Huge catch radius. That's going to help out Sam Darnold, who we know has very much a Elijah's down there somewhere kind of play style when he's got to drop back and throw the ball. The Damian Martinez pick, you mentioned, I like that a lot. The Jared Ivey UDFA pickup, I have no idea why Ivey went undrafted. He shouldn't have. But this was a very, very strong class by John Schneider. A strong offseason overall, I would say. The Geno for Sam swap was weird, but not necessarily bad. So I'm not going to dock him points for that. So overall, I think it's a very strong offseason for Schneider. It's just not what I expected in a good way. I'll say that.
Yeah, they've, again, filled a lot of holes for a team that was more competitive. They're one of those teams that jumped up a little higher in the first year of the new head coach than a lot of people thought they would. Last week of the season, they're competing for the division title. That was not what a lot of people expected in year one. To add a haul on top of that, like this, is a huge win for the organization and should continue their momentum in what is going to turn out to be a very tough division that sounds like might have some of your favorite class picks in it.
So my second pick, drafting the drafts here, is going to be the fighting Cam Scadaboos, the aforementioned Cam Scadaboo. The New York Giants, I thought they did phenomenal this weekend. And yes, they reached on a quarterback. I don't necessarily agree with the valuation of Jackson Dart. They do. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. And again, I say this as somebody who wouldn't have even taken Shedeur in round one either. Like, I didn't have a first-round grade on either one of these guys. So no matter what, they were going to be reaching on a quarterback for me. But I also understand they might get fired 8 games into the year, so they don't care about future assets. They're like, let's just take a chance, and if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, we get fired anyway. So, like, nothing really changes for them from a job security standpoint. They had to do something. I get it. But the reason why I love this class so much is the recommitment to the philosophy that used to win this team Super Bowls, which was building the defensive line. You got Abdul Carter at 3rd overall. Again, Jackson Dart, they traded up to get him in the first round. But in the 3rd round, they came back and got Darius Alexander, who was a top 50 player for me. Honestly, could have gone top 40 for me. I love him. Got him at 65 overall. One of the 4 most efficient pass rushing interior defensive linemen in this entire class. Literally, he was 4th in pressure rate among all IDL. Again, Cam Scadaboo, 4th round, went about where I thought he would go. Like, I had him as RB9 in this class and figured, okay, he's probably a late day 2, early day 3, just absolute hammer of a running back. And I think, again, he fits the mentality they're trying to build there, which is owning the line of scrimmage and just being the toughest, most physical team that they can be while they develop a young quarterback. Marcus Mbo in the 5th round went about, again, where I thought he would go. Some people had him way higher than this. I had play strength concerns if he was going to be a tackle. He's only about 300 pounds, and that really showed on tape. Like, when he was fighting people, they would just easily shed him late in the down because he didn't really have the core strength or the grip strength to hang on. His strength, honestly, is as a zone blocker in outside zone because he's got an elite first step and he's really good at walling guys off. So from that standpoint, I think it makes sense if you're really trying to run a whole bunch of outside zone. If you want him as a tackle in that kind of system, it makes sense. As a pass protector, I think he needs 15 more pounds or he's going to probably get wrecked. I would consider moving him inside for that reason as well. We'll see where he ends up. But about 5th round is where I thought he would go, and I thought that was fine value. Thomas Fidone would have gone way earlier than this if he didn't have the medical red flags that he does. He is tough as shit, really athletic, catches everything. Love him as a tight end in this system. And then Corey Black, the CB out of Oklahoma State. I actually didn't get Corey Black, but every other pick that they made, I got to. And for the most part, it was either appropriate or really good values. And I'll give them a pass on quarterback because I know they're going to get fired if they didn't take one anyway.
Yeah, they had to do it. It is a tone-setting draft for them. They did the right thing, I think, up top. And high picks are very important. Abdul Carter was one of the very few true blue-chip players in this draft. They could have traded that pick away, taken a haul of picks. Again, there's some urgency here, and Abdul Carter is going to help you right away. People talked about how that doubled up with Thibodeau. Sounds like they're picking up his 5th-year option. So now you just have ass kickers all along the front line. You go and you get some offensive line help. Jackson Dart can not only throw the ball, but he can also help you run the ball. One of the best runners at the quarterback position in this draft. Again, neither one of us had a first-round grade on him, but that's not the important thing. They need a quarterback right now. They're not going to compete without one. They think he can develop and be that guy for them. Then they get guys like Scadabo and Bo and Fidone right in a row. Those are attitude-setting picks down the board. Those are guys that are going to go out and mess people up. And they want that to happen. And it is a return to a style that they've played in the past, but haven't been able to lately. And I do like that about that.
I'll say this much. Giants D-line versus Eagles O-line this year. Must-see TV for me. I know that it can be a little precarious to put the Giants in primetime these days, but for the first time in a while, I think it's actually going to be really, really good television, at least for Giants fans. It's been good TV for Eagles fans for a while, but for Giants fans, I think genuinely, like, they are going to be an improved team. I think they're going to be a bitch and a half to play against, because anytime you go up against a team, even if they have offensive struggles, even if they have, deficiencies elsewhere on their roster, if you go up against an elite D-line, that almost is like the great equalizer in a sense. Like, you're in for a long day, no matter what, when you go up against this team. So I'm excited to see it. I don't think anybody's safe. I think they're that talented. Now, my final pick, my third rounder today. Call me a shill all you want. I don't care. I know I'm wearing team gear. I'm doing that on purpose. I fully intended to take the Chargers today in one of these picks, and I'm doing it. Because if you listen to the amount of weaponry, the sheer arsenal that the Chargers have collected over the past couple off seasons now. Like, they put the finishing touches on in this draft, and it's kind of crazy at this point. Omarion Hampton at pick 22, Trey Harris at pick 55. Jamari Caldwell, I think they were just kind of throwing Minner a bone there because he wanted a nose tackle. They're like, fine, here's 340 pounds of beef. Put it in the middle of the D-line. Kyle Kennard, honestly, a little early for me for Kyle Kennard, but he's exceptional football character. He's a Harbaugh kind of guy. I get it. They like him more than me. Fine, whatever. Come back to Keandre Lambert-Smith at pick 158. Catches everything. Absolute badass on the outside. So you have two future outside receivers that are both going to get, honestly, a lot of snaps this year between Trey Harris and Keandre Lambert-Smith. Both of them catch everything. Both of them are threats to take it to the house on any given play. You got Oronde Gadsden the second, right? Captain choice route, who's going to be your TE2/big slot. If you want to put Ladd outside for a couple snaps, put Oronde inside. Or honestly, you could put Oronde outside too. Like, he's a freakishly athletic tight end. Well, again, loose definition of the word tight end. It's a common theme here on this show. What is a tight end? Scale. I don't know. Let's just call him a big slot H-back. Again, captain choice routes, the best way to describe him. But I think he's awesome. Super smart player, super athletic. Branson Taylor, the guard out of Pitt, didn't get to him, but there's a whole bunch of offensive line folks on Twitter who are big fans, so I'll trust them. R.J. Mickens, an E.J. Snyder favorite. Really, really explosive, hard-hitting safety out of Clemson. Great fit for what Jesse Minter does on defense, where you start out in those two high shells, and then you're rolling either to 3 strong or 3 weak 60% of the time, and you need a safety that can come from 12 yards deep and either be competent in zone coverage or just smack the shit out of a running back and run support from depth. R.J. Mickens can do that. And then Chikwueze Bridges, the corner out of Florida, didn't get to him, so I can't speak to that because there's a bunch of corners in this class, so he was just outside my list that I got to. But overall, I mean, if you're looking at the Chargers depth chart on offense, because they ate their vegetables last year, they got to have dessert this year. You have an offensive line of Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson, Bradley Bozeman, Mekhi Becton, Joe Alt. We can work with that, folks. Like, that's a good offensive line, in my opinion, especially if they figure out a way to further solidify the guard room, insulate themselves from injury a little bit, because Mekhi Becton has an injury of that, or has a history of that. So insulating the guard room a little bit, I still think they can do that this summer. But you have weapons of Ladd McConkey, Trey Harris, Mike Williams, Keandre Lambert-Smith. You still got Darius Davis as your gadget guy / excellent return man. Will Dissly, Tyler Conklin, Oronde Gadsden at tight end. Omarion Hampton, Najee Harris as RB2, not as RB1. Better not be RB1, not with Omarion Hampton there. And then Kamani Vidal, who I still believe in, as your RB3. And then, of course, Justin Herbert pulling the trigger. Scott Matlock, your 290-pound fullback. Like, that's an offense, guys. Like, they're going to be able to score this year, and the defense is still going to be pretty darn good too. So, Chargers, hell of a draft, hell of a free agency period. They filled the needs they needed to fill. They strengthened the strengths they already had. I love this team. This is a really, really, really good roster.
Yeah, if you go down their draft picks outside of Kyle Kennard, who I like but don't love, this is on my guys list. Marion Hampton, been banging that drum for a couple of years that he was going to be one of the best running backs in this draft. Trey Harris, vertical X, I think wildly underrated. I think they got a value on him as well. Jamari Caldwell, yeah, he's 337 pounds or whatever it is in the middle of the line, but he's got some pass rush too. He can really move. Didn't get home on that as much in college, but there was more than one analyst that we talked to that said, I don't know, I think it's in there. Like, I think if he gets with the right defense, I think he can rush the passer too, and he's already really good against the run. The aforementioned Kennard, then you go back to Keandre Lambert-Smith. I went back yesterday, actually, just kind of, for fun, because it's what we do when we're trying to relax after the draft, and watched all his reps at the Shrine Bowl. Mm-hmm. Oh, boy. He did work there.
Yeah, he did.
Rondé Gadsden, same thing. And then R.J. Mickens, I really thought he could have ended up being a Bill, but he's a great fit in the Chargers defense. Honest to God, top to bottom, outside of one edge pick that is still pretty good, that's all guys I loved in this draft. So Chargers absolutely nailed it this year.
Who do you have as your last pick to round this out?
Rounding this out, and it hardly feels right labeling them as last with this draft, but I'm going to go stay in the division, go with the Chiefs, because when you stack this kind of talent on top of the roster they already had, Brett Veach just deserves his flowers. So Josh Simmons, best left tackle in this draft on tape. The reason he ends up in Kansas City is because of off-the-field concerns. Again, Kansas City has I guess you could call it a strength, a willingness to deal with that sort of thing that led us to believe a month ago that this was a fated pairing, that this was going to happen. But the Chiefs really needed it, and to get a player of his caliber way down at the end of the first round, not typically something you'd be able to do, but it falls into their lap and starts their draft off on a very correct foot. Omar Norman-Lott, one of your favorites. They get interior pass rush. Didn't have a ton of snaps this last year, but everybody's going off the opinion that, hey, if he did that much with like 160 snaps, if we just double it, he'll double his production, right? And he may well. He's a very talented interior defender. Ashton Gelati is where a lot of fans went, who? The defensive end out of Louisville. And I was like, no, this is the guy you want. This is a Spags prototype. I think he's going to be fantastic in that defense. Noah Williams, the Cal corner, the best of that very talented Cal secondary. We already talked about Craig Woodson going to New England. He was a teammate of Noah Williams. I think Noah Williams was the best one. And again, is almost Spags coded. He is exactly what they asked corners to do. There's no projection here, folks. He's already proved he can do it all. They're just going to ask him to do more of it. They keep right on rolling. Jalen Royals, one of my favorite receivers in the draft. I was much higher on him than a lot of people, but I think he insulates them against injury. And I love the pick because this is Brett Veach saying, nobody on my roster is going to keep me from taking Jalen Royals at this point. He is a value. He insulates us against a lot of things that have happened to our receiving core over the past couple of years. So that's just a great value. The first one that makes me sort of scratch my head a little bit is Jeffrey Bassa, the linebacker from Oregon. It's kind of a whatever pick, but if you hit on Simmons, Norman-Lott, Gelati, Williams, Royals, and then you take Bassa, you can get a pass for me, and they come right back and get Brashard Smith, the incredibly explosive running back, used to be wide receiver out of SMU, who is going to be a gadget player for them, but is going to give them the threat to go the distance on any given play that he's in on. So I'm down with that. You add in UDFAs like Jake Brenningstool, the tight end from Clemson, and one of your favorites, Elijah Badger, the big receiver out of Florida, and you look at this class and you're like, the Chiefs were not a bad football team at all. 2 years ago, we're like, this is not a great football team that's just winning a lot of games. Last year, that wasn't the case. You stack pick after pick after pick, fit after fit after fit. And I know we're tired of hearing it, but the Chiefs are just as dangerous as ever.
Yeah, people keep saying, okay, their core is older at this point. They had offensive line issues. Like they're going to have to do a little mini rebuild and take a break from being at the top of the AFC. Nope. That's a reload, folks, not a rebuild. Like if you look at where they attacked in this draft, it was specifically to address issues that they had, not against the rest of the NFL. It's almost like they're specifically attacking matchup issues they had against Buffalo, Baltimore, and honestly, Philly, who they might have to see again if they go on another run here. Okay, you got your left tackle. They took Jalen Moore, or not took Jalen Moore. They got Jalen Moore for 2 years, $15 million a year, just as like insurance to make sure, like if they didn't get a tackle high in the draft, they had something. But like Josh Simmons is going to play over Jalen Moore, and Jalen Moore is going to be a $15 million a year swing tackle for them. And that's fine because, you know, they took injuries to the position in the last couple of years, and they didn't have a Jalen Moore that could actually play for them. Like, that's why they had to put Joe Thuney at left tackle, because they didn't have that. Now they have that, and they've upgraded with Josh Simmons at tackle. Brashard Smith gives them a receiving element out of the backfield that they haven't had since Jerick McKinnon. And we know how important McKinnon was to this team. They don't win, or rather, they don't have the success that they had in the biggest games without having Jerick McKinnon there. So Brashard Smith gives them that element. And honestly, I think he's a better vertical threat than McKinnon was. Like, you can put him in the slot. You could put him out wide and have him run double moves because he did it on tape. Like, that's his thing. Like, I think Brashard Smith's going to be deadly for them. Jalen Royals, to me, is just another Rashee Rice. I know it's going to sound like a backhanded compliment, but like, this team knows how to use receivers like this that are really, really good after the catch. You know, a huge percentage of Jalen Royals' production came on screen passes. You know who throws a lot of screen passes? Kansas City. Like, this is going to be great for him. And then Elijah Badger is like, I think your more traditional, line him up outside, beat press coverage, be that separator. I liked him a lot. I don't know why he went undrafted. He was way too talented to go undrafted, in my opinion. So Elijah Badger, I think, is going to make this team. And then, you know, going on defense, Omar Norman-Lott, that's just getting somebody else who can rush the passer consistently besides Chris Jones. Like, this team had to put Chris Jones outside at defensive end for over half his snaps because they didn't have an edge rush rotation that they trusted to win as consistently as Chris. So now you get somebody else that can rush the passer. I'm not saying Omar Norman-Lott will play outside. That's Ashton Gelati's territory. But you have these two young rookies that can come in and be effective pass rushers for a team that, outside of Chris Jones, has honestly struggled to find effective pass rushers. Like, they took Felix a couple years ago, and we thought that was going to work out really well, and it just hasn't for whatever reason. But again, they're attacking that little micro weakness of like, we're way too dependent on Chris to get it done on third down. Now they have more guys, and then Noel Williams, like, they already had a really tough physical press corner on the outside in Christian Fulton. But if Fulton goes down, like, what's your answer, right? Like, they needed another Noel Williams there so that A, they could have two big, long physical press corners, and B, if Fulton goes down, they have somebody else who can immediately take that role and handle, big X receivers on the outside, box with them on the line of scrimmage, and not force them to put Trent outside. Like, they want to keep Trent in the nickel, so you take an outside corner so that you don't have to move Trent outside if you take on injuries. So, like, I loved how they approached this draft because they just looked at the things that gave them trouble last year in the biggest games. Like, this is not a draft for September. This is a draft for January. And I think they filled in every little hole that gave them issues from January on. And I think they're ready to go another run. I really do. Like, I still think KC should be the division favorite, even with all the work the other AFC West teams did, because this is like pick after pick after pick, except for Bassa, exactly what they needed.
Yeah, it felt like that. It felt like they had a very specific plan and they executed it extremely well. The board fell to them. They made a couple trades, picked up extra picks. Like, this is yeoman's work by Brett Veach, right? And I want to get your opinion on some classes that we didn't mention. We don't have to go through them pick by pick, but just teams that were in your mix, right, that you had just on the table or up your sleeve in case I took your favorite picks. So as we look around the league at what happened over the last weekend, I look at GMs like Jason Light and Brett Veach and John Schneider and, of course, Howie. And, who are some of the teams that did really good work that didn't make this list for you?
I feel like I'm the only person that really loves what Denver did because Broncos fans hate
You're
it.
not.
And I'm
I
like,
don't know about Broncos fans, but I think the first four of that draft, like if it had kept going, and it didn't for me, but the first four of that draft is as strong as the first four of any teams drafted. So if Denver fans don't like it, I'm not sure they know what they're looking at, because Barron, Harvey, Savion Jones, and Pat Bryant, like, were hits. And I thought, if this continues, like, they're making my list. It dropped off a little bit, so they didn't, but I think they had a great draft.
I just like Quay Robinson a lot more than you then, because I would go first 5.
Yeah, okay.
And then, okay, punter, fine, wwhatever.
Okay,
but
punter,
like,
fine, whatever.
You got Jahdae Barron at pick 20.
Yeah, no, great draft.
I don't understand why they're so upset.
I
would have killed for a draft like that. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, if my team had started off with those first four, I would feel very differently about my team's draft. I'm going to go with San Francisco for the same reason. Mike Howell, Alfred Collins, CJ West, Jordan Watkins, Jordan James, Marquez Siegel, Junior Bergen, who nobody talks about, but if you haven't watched Junior Bergen, do yourself a favor. Just go watch the special team snap for Junior Bergen. Just a fantastic player. And again, if you're talking about Junior Bergen, it's way down the board. Like, if that's what you're quibbling about, but that start, again, meat and potatoes, what they needed to address a lot of the deficiencies they had in previous seasons. There were a lot of teams that did good work. We haven't even talked about the Raiders. The Raiders crushed it.
I mean, if you're looking at the identity that Vegas has built, I want to pull up the entire draft here because it's just absolutely disgusting. So you got Ashton Genty at pick 6, Jack Besh at pick 58, Darian Porter, freak of nature corner, Caleb Rogers, who I don't know if he's going to be a tackle or a guard. They'll figure that out, but he's awesome. Charles Grant, freakish tackle prospect. Thornton, whatever, take it or leave it. Tonka Hemingway, JJ Pegues at pick 180. Like Tommy Mellott, Montana State in the house. And then, Cam Miller, who's, honestly, I think he got way underlooked in this quarterback class as like a QB3. Athletic, throws a good ball. Hell of a class, man.
Yeoman's work, we're not even talking about him. So many teams could have made this list. Most of them did. I was on a radio spot this morning and they said, who do you think blew it? Who's the loser of this draft? I said, nobody picked a kicker in the second round. Like, there are teams that did a little bit less or had a fewer number of picks, but I'm not ready to heap dirt on anybody. I think everybody had a decent draft, and a lot of teams had great drafts this year. So really, really good draft cycle. Again, I think this class redeemed itself a little bit. Like, there's no way you can have that many teams with good drafts if the class was crappy and everybody's saying, oh, it's a down year for the draft. It's no good, right? It's garbage. Sorry, you can't have like 8 or 9 teams having great drafts if the draft is full of garbage players. So I think the draft shone through a little bit for, again, everything we said it was going to be. It was going to be depth, refilling the roster. It was going to be meat and potatoes players that helped you do what all football teams need to do. It's not all stars, right? And there's a lot of really good football players in this draft, and I think a lot of teams aligned with that and did really well getting roster helpers that are going to, be immediate in a lot of cases. And then if you're lucky enough to be Philly in 2 years from now.
If we didn't talk about your team's draft today, don't worry, we're going to, because the summer series is rapidly approaching. We do 32 episodes over 8 weeks where we do deep dives into every single team. We do schematic breakdowns. We talk about what they did in free agency, who they lost, who they picked up, coaching changes. We break down the draft class. We break down how every single piece of every single team fits together. And that series is starting pretty darn soon here. I don't know the exact date, but basically once it starts, it's 8 straight weeks of 4 episodes per week, every single team. We also pick division winners when we do this. We're going to have companion content over on the Patreon, so keep an eye out for that. Every single episode that releases, we're going to have companion content for those teams on the Patreon. And speaking of the Patreon, by the way, thank you to all of our executive producers on the Patreon for once again helping us have another successful draft season. Fitzy, Connor, Eichen, Liam, Mike, and big welcome, new executive producer on the Patreon, Owen. Thank you for that. Appreciate you, Owen. Welcome to the group. We have so much more content coming this offseason. Honestly, this is the busiest part of our year because summer series takes that much time to make. But you guys all tend to love it every single year. Again, a few weeks out, I would say, from that starting up. Well, EJ is going to go find a beach somewhere and chill for like a couple weeks, and then we'll get to it. But again, thank you all for everything you guys have done for us throughout draft season, as well as showing up in record numbers for us over draft weekend live. We could not have done any of this without your support, because when you guys support us, our sponsors come back and they keep us afloat financially so that we can keep making this content for all of you guys. I really can't put into words how important that is. So great draft season. We'll talk about every single class this summer. Don't you worry. Come back for that. We'll see you soon.